Hey everyone, you're listening to another episode of the All Things Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick.Casale. I'm joined today by Candyce C. Anderson, LPC, therapist, private practice owner, TEDx speaker, the acclaimed author of Love, Taps, Red Flags of an Abuser and How to Get Out, and retreat host, mom, wife, all the things. Really excited to excited to have you here today. And we're just going to wing it because I know we both live in the South and we experienced a lot of storms and weather and technology stuff. So here we are. Thanks for coming on.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Patrick.
So, did I miss anything in the very, very long bio that you sent me?
You did not. It's one of those things where you do so much, it's kind of like, does it really matter? Does it?
So, I know that you're friends with Dr. Dominique Pritchett, and so am I. And she was just on here, and her bio is quite lengthy and understandably so. And I was like, I can't read all this. And she filled
Yeah,
it all in. She's like, I want to fill in all these gaps because my accomplishments need to be heard. And I was like, damn, I respect that. I also just cringe when people read my bio. So,
I
yeah.
know. I know. I literally had an experience one where my bio was read and it was kind of butchered. But then I've had other experiences where it's read, and sometimes when we are always on the go, we forget all of the things, the milestones, the accomplishment, the benchmarks that we've hit. And for me, sometimes when I hear it, I go, oh, that is me. I
Yeah.
totally forgot about those things.
It's so crazy, right? How hard we work to get there. And
Yes.
we just move on to the next thing
It's
because
like,
it's,
what's next?
yeah, like what am I creating or what speaking engagement do I have or what event am I working on? Like, so I appreciate that perspective of like just anchoring into being like, damn, I did all of that. Like
I
that's really
did
cool.
that. Yes, it is.
So with all that being said and all the things that you do, I want you to just kind of share a little bit of your journey and what really feels meaningful right now because I know you have retreats. I know you have the book.
Mhm.
You're a speaker. So you've got a good social media presence. Like people are really drawn to you for a reason, and I think it's because of how authentic you show up, how vulnerable you are, and how just prolific you are as a speaker in terms of engagement. Because people are really drawn to really the therapist personalities who are showing up and saying like, I struggle too. Like I've been
Mhm.
there. And I think that's so
Mhm.
important to highlight.
Mhm. I think for me, uh, and again, I don't even advertise, right? But my practice stays booked just by word of mouth or people feeling connected through social media posts. And for me, it's been that way because the way I grew up was very what happens in this house stays in this house. And I think that you probably know, and other therapists understand that when children grow up in environments like that, they learn not to trust themselves, not to speak, right? Not to use their voice, not to feel. And so I spent my really my early years from college finding my voice and finding myself, and kind of promised myself that once I felt comfortable and I got into who I wasn't going to silence myself for anybody. And I also find that the population that I serve the most, which is women, we are drawn to authenticity, right? We feel safe and comfortable when we can connect with people who aren't so tightly wound and can be a little more comfortable and realistic. And so people sometimes leave my therapy office saying, oh my gosh, I wish you were my friend because you made this process so comfortable and so easy for me, right? Which is the attunement, which is the affirming and validating people without any judgment. And so I can't offer that to other people if I'm not giving that to myself. So when you say about my journey and my story, most people don't know that I didn't start out wanting to be a therapist. I wanted to be an orthodontist.
Really? What was the draw to that? Like,
Yes. Okay. So I got braces in high school. It must have been like 16, 17 years old. And again, this is representation, right? So I go in the orthodontist office. I'm like, I don't want to get braces, Mom. He's like, you need it because you're going to do something amazing with your life.
Mm.
So I get there, and the orthodontist is this beautiful Black woman. She had like a Mercedes parked outside. The office was really beautifully decorated. She was fun, and I was like, oh, so this exists in real life, like not just the Huxtables. And whatever it was that she had, I was like, I want that, right?
Mhm.
Because I grew up in DC, late '80s, in the '90s, where the crack epidemic had really ravaged the city and the people of the city. And so any ideas or dreams that I had often originated in television or film,
Sure.
right? Or books. So when I saw this woman who was all those things and she was tangible, I was like, okay, let me do that, right? I was already a nerd or science. And so I went to school, but right before I went to school, I found out that I was pregnant. So I was all these things, homecoming queen and all these scholarships and all these grants. And I find out that I'm pregnant, and I decide to go ahead and continue with school. But in college, I discovered that, yes, the science was like fun for me, but it wasn't relatable.
Right.
It felt very mechanical and empty. So Howard University, they have these amazing pre-professional programs, pre-dental, pre-med, et cetera. I was a pre-dental student. And as a part of that, for our spring break, we got to shadow at the Howard University Hospital. So I was in the dental suite one spring break, and uh, saw and smelled some things that just were not meshing with me. And I said, this is not going to work. So went to my advisor, attempted to change my major, tried out a couple of things, anthropology, and then I took a psych class. And my professor was a doctor of divinity, and he was also a clinical psychologist. His name was Ronald Hobson. And he said something that changed my entire worldview. He said that people's recollection of your story does not invalidate it. And for me, growing up in a home where my mother was an alcoholic, I was always gaslit into believing that what I was seeing, feeling, and experiencing was not actually true. And so when he said that, immediately I was affirmed all the things I had experienced and told, Candyce, that's not what happened. I was immediately affirmed and freed up. And so I thought, well, if that one epiphany can do that for me, what could I do for other people who live in this same space? And that was when my journey in psychology and figuring out what it was that I wanted to do and how I wanted to contribute to the world. Because this work for me is not only a love letter to the Black collective and mankind, it's the rent that I pay for taking up space in this life.
Damn.
It is my soul's work. And so I take it very seriously. And every day I wake up is an opportunity for somebody else to get a little bit of freedom in their life.
I love that. That's really powerful. And it sounds like that really helps with that decolonistic like view of how therapy can be done. Of therapy doesn't have to be buttoned up and robotic, and it's really more about community healing. And
Yes.
it sounds like you're also offering similar glimpses into life that maybe that orthodontist offered you while you were in high school. Like people get to come in your therapy space and say, wow, look at what can be possible. Look at what can be
Mhm.
done. Look at how people can
Mhm.
move through the world and shift and change and
Mhm.
grow and crush a lot of these narratives and end this trauma cycle too.
Yes. Yes. Because the people that end up in my office are the ones usually in their family system that say, this isn't healthy. Something's not right here. I might not know exactly what it is, but I know that I want something different. So those people end up in my office. And so they already have some idea that there is more available, but they just don't know what that means for them. And they don't know what the price is, right? Because we know that the lives that we want to create essentially cost us old habits, old beliefs, old mindset. And to dig those things up and excavate and create new things, we got to go to some ugly places sometimes. So me being able to not just come from a textbook, but say, I know what it's like to be this survivor. I know what it's like to overcome and navigate and move through to find you're happy. It changes for them what is possible. It makes it tangible, it makes it real, it puts it within reach. And then they make the choice to say, "Oop, there it is, that's what I want."
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So it 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 allows this thing to be real. It allows healing to be experienced. And for some people, first time ever.
For sure. And that's so
First time
powerful.
ever.
It also normalizes the human experience and existence to have other people openly talk about their own struggles from a different perspective. Like if you're, that's why I've always talked so openly about my history with gambling addiction, my late in life autism diagnosis, et cetera, because I think it offers that glimmer of hope of like, if I do the work, life can be different, right? I know what it's like to struggle.
Mhm.
I also know what it's like to go into those ugly places, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
and to really like cultivate something different and to be able to create out of a lot of that shit.
Yes. Yes. And you just said something so important. So people ask me when they saw the viral moment of the women going to the water before the Montgomery Brawl or my books or these events that I host, and they say, "Well, how did you come up with it?" That creativity oftentimes is born out of what maybe we needed,
Yeah,
right, in our own struggles that we couldn't find.
for sure.
And so we say, well, if I needed it and I have all of this self-awareness, et cetera, then certainly there are people who need it who may not necessarily be in that place, but they can recognize it when they see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that there's so much power in creation through like healing and acknowledging like as people and entrepreneurs, I'm trying to create something that I myself need or want that or I
Mhm.
can't find it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think you're so right. Like that perspective of if I need it, if I want it, if I recognize this is valuable, I am not
Mhm.
the only one out of 8 billion people on the planet who is also going
Right.
to relate to what I'm trying to put out into the world and why I think it's important.
Precisely. Precisely. I think that, it's the mother of ingenuity. Essentially, if you need something, you can't find it, it's probably a sign that you're supposed to create it,
Yeah.
right? Or how we say if three people say the same thing to you or ask the same question, then if there's a need.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about like how many people have these great ideas, right? But they keep them to themselves because they're like,
Mhm.
this isn't really going to work for people. It's not going to be
Mhm.
successful. People aren't going to want it. All the
Mhm.
narratives that we tell ourselves. And then someone else is probably going to put that idea out into the world. And you're like, well, shit, that's exactly what
Right.
I've done for 2 years.
Right. You ever seen an infomercial? It'll be for like the weirdest gadget, and you go, I thought about that, right?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
this concept, this book, I think it's called The Magic in You. I know magic is in the title. I can't recall the precise title, but in it, the author explains that when ideas come into the atmosphere, essentially, and you feel inspired, if you don't do anything with it, that idea finds another medium
Yep.
through which it becomes alive. And so that's why sometimes we'll go, dang, I wish I had acted on that. I wish I had saw that thing through because it needs to come into the earth some kind of way, right? The universe needs to bring it about in some way. So if it comes to you and you're dilly-dallying, there are still people that need it. So it has to find another way to come about.
Absolutely. Because these ideas, right, are like their energy. And if we don't kind of harness that energy, it is just going to transfer somewhere else or dissipate and disappear. And I just think of
Mhm.
so sad. Like I think of this quote a lot. I don't know why, but I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Bronx Tale, but
I have.
there's a quote that Robert De Niro says to his son, like the saddest thing in the world is wasted talent. And I always think
Mm,
about that when
mm,
so many of the people we interact with have such wonderful ideas, but
mhm.
keep themselves small for a variety of reasons, right? Like there's so much
Mhm,
there, but it's like, damn, if we could just get these things out into the world and in motion and really
mhm.
harness that energy, a lot of beautiful creations really will come to be. Let
Yep.
me ask you this. So private practice wise, did you ever think to yourself, your mom had told you this, you're destined for great things as you're getting ready to get braces. Do you ever think like, okay, if I start my own business, if I start a private practice, that's kind of the end, that's the finish line for me? Do you ever think that before like going on to do all the things that you've done?
For me, private practice wasn't the end. It was the vehicle through which more freedom came for me. So my core belief or need in life is freedom. And for me, I knew that the more engagements I was asked to be a part of and the more trainings I was asked to facilitate, I couldn't work for somebody else and control my schedule the way I needed to.
Yep.
And even when I left, I worked for a psychiatrist for about 3 years before I started my practice. And she said to me, she was like, "I'll see you on Oprah one day." She was like, I knew that you needed to go off and do your own thing." And I was like, okay, I'll receive that.
Yeah.
Um, so even now in private practice, I only see clients 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Special circumstances, I will open up other availability. But that Monday, that Friday, I have meetings or interviews or travel and things that allow me to bring about the other parts of this work that I enjoy. So for me, when I thought of private practice, I said, not only is it an opportunity for me to give love and healing to the community at large in a way that feels comfortable for me, right? Like you can come in with your bonnet on, you can come in if you have to take your braids out, and you can come in your pajamas. Like if you can just get here, you can come any way that you need to. For me to be able to create that kind of space, I needed to have my own to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so it wasn't necessarily the end. It was a soft place to land and cultivate other ideas and plan things out fully without being stifled.
I love that. I think that's a great perspective because so many people, especially I think mental health professionals who maybe don't have a lot of business savviness at first, or at least will
Mhm,
tell themselves that they don't know how to be a business owner, have all of these ideas, but
mhm.
a lot of the time you can't see the forest for the trees. Like for me,
Correct.
when I left community mental health, I was just like, private practice, that's it. Like that's the end game. I just want to get the hell out of here. But it was always driven by freedom and autonomy. And like,
Yes.
I can't be employed. I don't think I could be supervised at this stage in my life. And
Yes,
just the need
exactly.
for time, just the need to be like, why do I have to be in this office from 9 to 5 if I get my work
Yikes.
done half the time, or my brain doesn't even really start working
Mhm.
until 11 a.m.? Like, why do I have to be here? And questioning that. But I think if you're
Mm.
going and like uh leading from that value that you have, and for you, that need for freedom, it sounds like that need for freedom has really impacted and been the driving force and catalyst behind your talks, your books, your retreats. Like, there's a
Mhm.
lot of interwoven theme there in terms of how you can cultivate that and bring that into the world.
Yes. It's really all connected when you think about it. Our ability to meet our higher self brings about change in other people's lives. So if I can understand that I don't like to see my first client until 10 a.m.
Mhm.
If I can understand what that means for me, meaning I'm more alert, I'm more connected, I'm more attuned with the client, then that by however much percentage will improve their experience,
For sure.
right? Versus trying to force or fit myself into somebody else's expectation of what
Yep.
an employee should be and what you should do to get this work done. So for me, it was like, you know what? I don't want to see clients every day of the week. I don't want to burn out. I don't want money to be the driving,
Right.
force in this. So it really helps to switch your perspective when you can understand the why of I'm opening this business, because
Absolutely.
it is a business and it has to make money and it has to make sense. So I see a lot of clinicians newly minted in private practice struggle with even setting their rates
Yep.
or exchanging the currency for the service.
Yep. True.
Um,
Cancellation policies or enforcing fees.
yes.
Like, I did it. I did it myself. Like, when people would
Mhm.
call me at first, and I was so scared that nobody would ever call me again because my brain tricked me into this like mind fuck of
Mhm.
imposter syndrome of like, if you turn
Yep.
this client away, nobody's ever going to call you again.
Right.
You
From
don't
one
say,
person,
yeah,
nobody ever in life.
yeah. If you don't say yes to $12 for this session opposed to your rate of whatever, nobody's ever going to call you again. It's like, this is
Right.
ludicrous. Like, this does not make
Ludicrous.
sense. But it's
Ludicrous.
a reality for a lot of people. So it is a business, but
Yeah.
I think it is a vessel, like you said, to launch into other areas if you are more of an entrepreneurial spirited human being. Like, there are plenty of
Mhm.
people listening to this podcast who are like, private practice is fine with me, and that is it. And I know
Mhm.
a lot of people
Mhm.
say, I want to speak, I want to write books, I want to have like media opportunities, like I want to run retreats or do courses. And for me,
Mhm.
as a neurodivergent human, the idea of monotony and doing something over and over and over again for the rest of my life isn't that feels like hell, honestly.
Hell, yes. Okay, because I was gonna say exactly that. For
Yeah.
me, I knew from a very young age that whatever I was going to do in life, it couldn't be the same every day
Right.
because I would lose my mind.
Yep. Yeah.
So I love the fact that I get the variety, right? So this week has been 2 podcast interviews, a keynote, some sessions, a couple of meetings. Next week is kind of the same thing, with some travel thrown in, right? So every day is different, and every day when things are different every day, it also lends itself to this continuous cycle of inspiration
Yep.
because you continue to run into problem solving, new ideas, different people, and that for me is just part of living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the stimulation, right? Like, being in the room, whether physically or virtually, with someone else, hearing new ideas, new conversations,
Mm-hmm.
taking in new experiences, overcoming new
Mm-hmm.
challenges. Like that's the stuff that feels really like motivating and energizing to me.
Yes, doesn't it?
And that's the stuff I always pursue instead of like, the same monotonous or safe
No,
situation.
no,
Just not how
no.
I'm wired.
I knew, so I worked, after grad school, I got hired on to the counseling center of the nonprofit that I was a part of. I was there for like 3 years. And I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this for 30 years.
Yeah. No.
I can't come into the same office around the same people, looking at the same problems. And we know that most nonprofits, there are some barriers there.
For sure.
Me kind of screaming silently, like, why don't you all do this thing differently? Right. Because I'm not in control or in power in that space, was when I said, okay. So then the next opportunity I had was a nonprofit, but I got to make my hours. Right. So there was a little more freedom. And then from that one, I think I was there for 2.5 years. Then the psychiatrist's office, and at the psychiatrist's office is where I learned more of the business side. So then I said, I think I can do this. And I started my practice during COVID. Um, and I remember when I turned my letter and I gave them so much time, like it was so much more time than two
Yep.
weeks because I wanted to be generous in that because I
Yep.
knew what it was like to leave.
Yep.
And
They notice on my end. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I turned my notice in. I went to get some Starbucks, and the barista at Starbucks said, "You are glowing." And I was like, "Really?" She was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Because I did that thing today. That's why." Right. So when we honor ourselves, it radiates. And I think it inspires other people to do the same.
Absolutely. 100%. It's contagious too. And it also like empowers other people to think, then this is a possibility. This doesn't have to be a pipe dream. This doesn't have to be like,
Mm,
I hope one day this can become my reality. It's like, no, you can actually
mm-hmm.
pursue this way sooner than you think if you start
Way
putting these things in
sooner.
place. And a little bit of
Yes.
risk taking goes a long way. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
I think like betting on yourself is fucking horrifying, but
Patrick. Oh my God. Like that. So somewhere on my social media, you're gonna see that quote where I was like, before I bet on anybody else, I will bet on myself
yep,
every time. And like you were saying, it doesn't always feel comfortable,
nope,
right? But I always win. I always win, even when it turns out a bit different than the vision. For me, that's still a win because I didn't sit on it.
absolutely. Agreed.
And I never want to be, in my golden years and look back and say, I should have done that thing.
Life is too short.
I wish.
Yeah, it's just too short.
Yeah. Yeah. And opportunities, I think, abound. So we are never short of opportunities. We are sometimes short of belief. We
Yeah,
are sometimes short of the will to do things. But opportunity is all around. I am constantly in alignment. And if we want to use the word manifesting, amazing things. And my goal, my job is to make sure that I am prepared, that I am ready when it appears.
love that. That's great. Yeah, I think that's super powerful. Um, just thinking about all of your accomplishments as we get closer to wrapping this up, is there one that stands out to you where you're like, I'm still amazed that this became a reality?
Hmm, one that stands out for me. I do have something in the works. I can't necessarily talk about it now,
Okay.
but hopefully in a couple of months I can announce it. And that seemed to have come out of nowhere. But when I look back at it about how the opportunity came about, it was really them discovering me from an article that I wrote, and one line in that article for them was like, that's it, right? So trusting myself enough to use my voice, because remember earlier I said my voice wasn't always valued. It was always valuable, but it wasn't always valued. So using my voice and being comfortable enough, whether it is audio and print, to be able to say the things that I want to say. Because if I don't continue to speak up and don't continue to speak out, that's essentially silent. And people can't hear me if I'm silent. So I say all of that to say, me getting comfortable in my own skin, and even when I'm uncomfortable, still allowing who I am to show up and to show out every single time. Every single time. Because for me, the opposite would be betrayal of self. So my greatest accomplishment is, as the visions come true, being very clear that they are coming true because I was unafraid to be myself. I was unafraid to be myself. That little girl who was told, you're a prima donna, you act white, right? Because you are talking about and you want to do things that aren't stereotypically accepted amongst your culture, your in group. Being able to say, no, you just haven't caught up yet. You will. You will. So, yeah.
You just said, I mean, that was unbelievably powerful and inspiring. I'm like thinking as you're talking, like so many good quotes from this episode or titles of this episode. It's like, damn. Super inspiring. And I hope that all of you listening are just soaking this in, because that everything you just said is so unbelievably important and powerful. And I think that that's really it right there. And I'm so happy that you're just continuing to follow that message for yourself and sharing it with the world too, because that's what people need more of, right? And really walking in your purpose in that regard. So congratulations to everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
This was a great conversation, and I just really appreciate you making the time to do this and sharing some of your story too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having me and creating this space where we can do stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. This was something I didn't have on my bingo card when I left grad school. So there's a lot of those. While we've got you, and everything that you're about to list will also end up in the show notes for people, but please share with the audience where they can find more of you.
Sure. My website is candiceandersonlive.com. My social media handles, including Twitter, or now X, and Instagram, are also C Anderson Live, and that's CEANDRSONLIVE. And you can find me there.
Awesome. That sounded like so perfectly rehearsed. Like you must say that a lot. So thank you for that. And again, everyone, that will be in the show notes so you can connect and follow and support. And thank you so much for coming on and making the time.
Thank you, Patrick. It's been a pleasure.
To everyone listening to the All Things Private Practice podcast, new episodes are out on every single Saturday on all major platforms and YouTube. Like, download, subscribe, and share. Doubt yourself, do it anyway, and we will see you next week.